Alex here, back in my basement. It's Yuma time. So a little update. I have to apologize for how long it took to get the Yuma out. As you can see in this video, it's going to be all over the place. I first started this series doing it freehand with toothpaste and using that as a masking fluid and painting it that way. And I did that 2 times. I still wasn't happy. And again, I'm doing this 10:30, 11 o'clock at night when I get home, play with this for a little bit, and then end my day. So I did that twice. I still wasn't happy with it. So hanging around with Trooper Trent, you'll learn a thing or two. And I saw him, how he developed his stencils, and though I don't have the tools like he has or the computer skills he has, my brother has a t-shirt business that he does on the side, and I see how he uses his machine that makes the t-shirts to make stickers. So I said, why can't I try and make some stencils? So this was a long, big, if I show Trent how I did this, he'd be chuckling away because of the ass backwards way I went about doing this. But it's the only way I knew how to do it because I don't have the computer skills. But in the end, I freaking got it to work. So I'm very happy with the outcome. But these are all done with Starkiller's reference. Another one that I have to give a huge shout out to is Bryan. Bryan has a Master Hero thread, the MOM thread, mom thread I guess we'll call it. I'll link that description below. Even if you're not building a hero and watching this, it is amazing the detail he has gone into this thread. Pictures, information, everything. So Bryan just started doing his research on the Yuma, and he's got some animated GIFs of Hamill moving it, and his hand opens up at one part, and we get to see the chips on this side, and I was missing that. So this is a revision. This is the new booster sticker. So I have to really thank Bryan for the work he's gone into hunting down the pictures and doing the animated GIFs. And of course, I couldn't have done this without Trooper Trent and him showing me how he built his stencils. These are very primitive compared to his. There's no lineup marks. There's no ups and downs. There's no colors for weeding. It was very difficult and, like I said, ass backwards. But I got it to work. With that said, so now I have a set of stickers stencils that I can use to get the chips exactly where I want. Let's talk about paint. The wind vane, I want to say it looks like they used the same color. I kind of find it hard to believe that they did, because on the sail barge with the sail on top of it, shading the shading Hamill and the V2, it kind of looks different, but I don't know if that's stage lighting or whatnot, what they're doing. But when it's in the sunlight, it kind of looks like it's the same color. I just find it hard to believe that the guys who built the hero, who modified this into the hero, had the same color paint. I don't know. But I'm going to stick with the same antique gold from Ace for the wind vane, which I guess is getting really hard to find right now. The rest of the black, like the ring section and the booster, that black looks flat to me. On the hero, it's definitely got a sheen to it, but on the Yuma, I'm pretty confident it's flat black. So we're going to stick with the 7578 flat black for that. The production team got black inside the groove here. You can see that there's black over here around the top of the clamp section, I will call it. And the emitter is black, but the way that they tarnished it, so they stenciled, they did some random masking or whatever, or paint chipping, and they then must have burned it or tarnished it. The only way I can explain it is the way we used to weather our proton packs back in the day, where we spray it black and then buff the hell out of it with steel wool to make it like a real used looking black. So they did that to the emitter, and then they took some sandpaper and put grain into it. So that's what we're going to do for the top. The emitter, actually, there's one pretty damn good picture we have with the paint on the emitter. And again, they did that too. They used the same steel wool on the top to tarnish it. The nipple also is the same way, as black with the tarnished paint. We all know what the V2 means to me. And right behind the V2 is the V3 because they're sisters. Or they're not. We'll just say they're related. The Yuma is no doubt a hybrid that they made of the V3. And now with these photos, I can prove that the nipple changes, because we have pictures of the blade in short configuration, we have pictures of the blade in long configuration, we have pictures of the blade in medium configuration. Back in the day, I thought they just kept hacking the blade down until it was over, it was done. But now I think this hilt's purpose was to have a quick change blade for these scenes. This blade has never made contact with anything else. You know, think about it. When he's on the skiffs, he doesn't hit anybody. When he's on the sail barge, he doesn't hit anybody. He's bouncing laser beams. This hilt was made just to wave around a short blade, so production had something to line up with. Because if the blade was painted with the Scotchlite material or wrapped in the movie screen material, they'd have a hard time seeing it in the Yuma sunlight. So I think that's why the blade was painted black. The blade came in multiple lengths for multiple scenes. When he gets closer to the bad guys on the other skiff, the blade is real short, so he's not actually hitting the guys. They fall off the skiff, yada yada yada. But the nipples change on these blades, so I believe that this was a quick change blade setup. The Yuma was built to quickly change blades in and out. It makes sense with the nipple, the hole in the nipple being so short and shallow. If you would take the blade and hit another blade, there's no way that would be strong enough to hold it. So that's just a crazy theory of mine, and just shouting it out there that I'm pretty sure this was a hybrid of the V3, and sole purpose was to have a quick change blade for that scene. And that's why we don't see it anymore in Return of the Jedi, because its only purpose was out in the desert sunlight with a quick change blade and a black blade. I've seen some talking about the control box. I can confirm the rails on the control box are smooth here. I'm pretty sure they modeled this box to replicate a graphics clamp, even putting a channel in here for a clamp card. The clamp card, I believe, was in there at one time and fell out because you can see remnants of super glue all over this. One other thing too is the long lever. The lever is huge on it, most likely to mimic the clamp. It also has this dovetail on the side. I remember a lot of people speculating that it was the black buttons not painted black yet, but I can confirm that it is definitely a long lever with this dovetail. Since we're on the control box, I'll just show off the switch setup I came up with. This is primitive. Let me tell you guys, this is my freaking 3D modeling skills, alright? Like down here, and other guys are way up here. So I'm sure somebody else will come up with a much nicer design. But for me, I want to try and get this thing FX'd tomorrow. George is actually making a very inexpensive sled to fit in here, and I'm hoping to bum a STL file off of him and get that so I can start FXing this thing. So this is what I came up with for the controls. I was under the impression Crystal Focus 10 only used one button. I'm not an electronics expert. I don't know much about FXing. Come to find out, you need 2 buttons. So of course, you know, I got the screw button working to activate one button. But Starkiller came up with this slide switch idea, and I was thinking to myself, how can I get this to work? How can I get this to work? I'd come home while eating dinner, I'm not lying, with the control box like this, and I'd be going like this while eating dinner. Just thinking, what can I get it to work? How can I get this to work? How can I keep it in there? How can I keep it from falling out? I came up with this little boat idea. This is very primitive, and this isn't the final design, but it works for the video. and I got this little cup. So this little cup's got a sailboat rudder on here, right? This little rudder fits inside this channel in here. Then we're gonna take this, you know, put the box on here. This lever gets glued into the cup and acts as our secondary aux switch, right? So realistically, this has to get glued on here first, right? Sits in there, and then the bolt goes in here like this. And that's how it works. Again, I'm not a 3D model guy. I can barely use Tinkercad, but I'm pretty proud of this setup, and that's what I'm going to use until someone else comes up with something better. So I'm pretty sure I covered everything I wanted to cover before we actually start doing the tutorial. There's a few more things that I didn't cover yet, but they're in the video, so that gives you something to look forward to, because you've heard me babble enough. But I just had to get this information out there and explain the process of what we're going to do, why we're going to do it, and what goes where. So I hope I didn't kill you with boredom, but let's get out to the shed and get this thing going. Alright, so we're gonna start the painting process. As you can see, I got dirt and grime inside the ring section here. So just like in the hero thread, hero video, I'm going to clean that all up with some rubbing alcohol. We're going to mask it off, and we're going to do the wind vane first. Thankfully, this is in two parts. So while I'm painting the wind vane, I'm going to paint the booster at the same time. I'm going to go get the blue painter's tape and start covering this stuff up. So let's get to that. Alex here, back in my shed. I have to apologize because I've made some errors in this video, and I've gone back with editing and trying to splice in revisions, and in the end it was just all over the place. I was just about to upload it to YouTube and I said, this isn't right, this is a hack job. So I ended up stripping the top part of the Yuma. The booster and everything is fine. So the footage you see of doing the booster or anything booster related, you may see the Yuma in the background painted or whatnot. Just ignore that. That's the old one. So we're going to start fresh with this top part of the Yuma, and I'm going to edit this in. So let's cover masking and painting. So we're going to use the 7578 flat black, right? My favorite flat black. I'm going to use the same gold as we use on the Yuma, the antique gold 17011. I have my stencil kit on here. Again, it's not necessary to put the wind vane stencils on during this time because we are going to paint the black first. I strongly believe the prop department painted the black on this thing first because we have remnants of black paint on the flat spots of the rings where they go to sand the paint off. There's paint remnants still there, okay? And what is funny is there's black paint remnants here on this part of the wind vane. So I believe they masked off the wind vane, painted it black, right, because the emitter is black as well, unmasked it, then masked the black and painted the gold because you can see gold on this lip here on the top, but you can't see it on the side. It's black on the side. Well, remnants of black paint on the side. So we're going to mask off the wind vane and we're going to paint the black first, and then we'll go with the gold. So that's what we're going to do right now. Let's start masking. Alright, the wind vane is masked off, revealing this edge here. And another reason why I think it was painted this way is because there's one scene we have where he gets shot in the hand, and I swear the underside is gold. So this would explain painting the black first, masking it off, and painting the gold. That's how they got the gold underneath. So I'm pretty sure this is the right process. Black first, then the gold. One down. Alright, now we're going to do the booster. And again, we're going to keep the paint inside this groove here. Alright, so we got our flat black coated. Coat. 2. Clean your tip. No one likes a dirty tip. Alright, so I got the Yuma in the lathe here. I have 3 coats on here because that comes into effect for the emitter later on. So you want to do 3 coats of flat black and 3 coats of gold once we cross that bridge. But now we're going to start removing the paint from the ring section, and I much rather do this first than the emitter. The emitter is kind of tricky, but we'll get there. So I figure do the rings first. That way, if there is a screw up, you can always paint the rings and not have to worry about masking everything off. So we're gonna get to removing the paint on the rings. There is remnants on all these rings except these first 2. These 2 are perfectly clean. The rest of them have paint still on them, and this top one here has the most paint. This also has paint on it. So I'm going to start with 220 here. I should have waited for the paint to cure, but I'm pushing it. It's only been a couple of hours, and you can tell because the paint is clogging the sandpaper very quick. So you should wait a couple of days, 2 or 3 days before you do this. I think Starkiller said 3 days for the Hero, but I'm so far behind, I'm going to press my luck here and try and do it. Here comes my brother. What do you want?
Sandpaper.
Come over here, I got plenty of it. Cleaned up the first 2 rings so they're really clean, right? The rest of the rings now, this one has a little bit of paint left on it, as you can see. The thin one has very little, and then they start getting dirtier and dirtier, like the prop guy was getting lazy. So this top one here is exactly where I want it. Actually, I might just... That's exactly where I want the top one. The others I'm going to start to work on. Alright, now I'm going to use a little bit of steel wool just to buff them a little bit. That's good enough. Now we're going to remove the paint on the wind vane, making sure to leave some behind just like the rest. that's getting good. Leave it just like that, and steel wool. While we're doing this, and it's in the lathe, I'm going to do the emitter top plate. Now, again, since it's in the lathe, this paint is much duller than the rest of the black. So I'm going to take some steel wool and I'm going to buff it a little bit, dull it down. I don't know if the paint is still too, I'm a little worried that the paint's not cured yet, so I'm going to try and see where we go. No, it's working. You can see we're turning it like a gray color. I'm not pressing down hard either, I'm going like this, very light. We're not going to touch this one. It's very important not to touch this one, because that one is the same color black as the rest. But these two up here are different. We're just going to polish this up, turn it gray. And it's starting to look a different color. I'm liking it. We don't want to remove the paint yet. We just want to turn this a different color. Let me see on screen. Yeah, that's looking good. Now that it's in the lathe, we're going to do the top plate too. It's actually giving a little bit of a grain to it, and that's what we want. Oh, this is freaking wicked. That's exactly what I want. So I'm glad I started this over. I'm very happy with the result now. You can see the paint still in the ring sections, right? You can see the paint still on the wind vane, and you can see how we have tarnished the black on the emitter and how it's a different color black now than the ring section. We also did the emitter plate, and you can see the grain. Trying to get it there. You can see the grain now in the paint, as is on the side of it, and the grain is a big key point, because the prop team just took sandpaper and went like this to it. I'm going to try and recreate the highs and lows on the emitter. I made some stencils for the emitter, and the stencils are not working because either I make them too small, well, I make them the exact size I see by scanning them and putting them in Photoshop, but when you go to start putting the grain in, it removes too much of the stencil, so the stencil shapes are smaller. So I then blew up the stencils and try the same thing, but there's really no control over it. I find that I have more control when I carve in with some wood tools a very small design I want, and then manually make it bigger with sandpaper. I have this as an example here. This is what we want to recreate. You can see the emitter plate, and this is exactly what we want. This is what it's like on the prop in the sail barge scene. So now people are going to have a hard time believing that there's this much paint on here, but trust me when I say there is. You can see it very clearly. I mean, it's very, very clear, this photo. I believe there's a lot of scenes where it's very shiny, and again, the rest of the hilt is very shiny. So all these silver spots, I think, shine and cover the black paint in those scenes, especially the scene where he's holding it and gets shot in the hand. You can see how bright the neck is, and I believe that has to do with the lighting. And the lighting is now, the reflection is now masking the paint remaining on the emitter. And more photos where you can see how dirty the emitter actually is. But that's what we're going for. This is exactly what we're going for. So now I've made this carving tool out of a plastic putty knife, put it on the belt sander, sanded some edges to it. I'm going to use that to put in my designs. Alright, so I got my chips in there. This is by far the hardest part of the Yuma, is getting the emitter to look right. And we got the top plate and nipple looking great, but I'm just going to buff this up with the steel wool again. This time I'm pressing it a little bit harder so I can get some grain in there. You can see now I'm putting, this also smooths the edges of the chips I made. The edges here, and here are always clean from when the team did this. And again, I think they just ran sandpaper down it. Some really coarse sandpaper too. You can really see the grain in the aluminum actually. So, but that's not there today on it. It's pretty, it looks pretty smooth today. So we're going to dull this down. I think you can actually see it changing on the camera. You can see the grain in the camera. It took me a couple times to get this. So we'll try. Alright, it's been a very long day. And we're going to now try and put the grain in the wind vane. I got some 120 sandpaper here. And we're just going to go like this. We can now make our shapes that we put in there exaggerated. This is the kind of stuff you want to see. That stuff. Here's the example piece. We want to mimic these. You don't want to remove a lot of black paint, because believe it or not, there's still a lot of paint on there. Right. We're going to do the next plate now. Wow, it kind of looks hideous on the, maybe it's because of the way the light is. Piece of paper on there. I'm really just trying to get the grain in there. I'm very happy with it. I'm just going to take some steel wool, go like this. Now I don't know if I've already said this because I filmed this so many times, but everybody's under the impression that it's raw aluminum, and it's not. Because the shine is negating the paint on it. I'm looking at reference here. I'm looking like there's more missing. I'm leaving it. This is exactly what I want. I don't want to touch it. That's what I want. Oh wow, seeing it on screen? Yes. That's exactly what I want. Okay, I'm gonna break this down, take the emitter plate, throw it in the chuck, and stop fooling around with that. Alright, so I got some designs on here. I'm gonna do the same exact thing again. I'm trying to get in here, I got so much camera equipment up here. There we go. Oh man, this is perfect. Oh, damn it, I can't believe I did it like that in the first try. 100% what I want. 100% what I want. Exactly, I'm not even going to touch it. Wicked excited. That's exactly what I want. Damn it, perfect. So I now have the emitter exactly the way I want. Emitter plate, super happy with. So now I'm going to mask off all the black, the emitter and the ring section, and we're gonna start applying our gold. So let's go heat up some water and get that going. Okay, so we're gonna use the water trick from Anakin Starkiller. Again, what he suggests is shaking the can for a minute, then heating up a bowl of water for 2 minutes, let the can soak in there for 2 to 3 minutes, and then spray the coats. The hero I did took me 8 or 10 coats, but a lot of guys online are getting away with 3. So I went to my kitchen, got my mother's best chamarita bowl straight from Portugal, heated up the water is still hot, and now we're gonna let her soak. I got her masked off, leaving the lip here open so I can put gold down there. And then I masked off the bottom here because we want that to stay black, but it gives us room to spray the underside gold. I truly believe the underside is gold in that Yuma shot. But again, we're losing daylight, and I brought out the heater to help bake the gold. We're gonna try and do 3 coats tonight. It's gonna be a push, but let's start. Shake the can. Now that it's warmed up, shake the can for 1 more minute. You can actually feel when it's all mixed because now the warmth from the bottom of the can will be all over the place. Shake it for 1 minute and then go apply the paint. Paint warm. Go back into the shed now. 2 coats is looking pretty good on this. I'm gonna do a 3rd because my boy George said so. You guys saw me joking before about cleaning your tips. Again, if you have a high performance can, a lot of Rust-Oleum cans now come with this tip. If you turn upside down to spray it, it doesn't work because these are built to spray upside down. They're built to spray at any angle, right? So you've seen me just take a rag with a little bit of acetone and clean the tip. This can, however, is the old school vintage kind, where you can turn it upside down, spray it, and once it changes colors, the tip is clean. So I just wanted to clarify that. So save your paints by always cleaning the tips. How to clean the Ace Gold tip. Turn the can upside down. There we go. Clean. So now that's dry, we're gonna go return my mother's favorite bowl and then get back in the basement and start working on paint chips and weathering. It's been a long day, but she paid off. My favorite phone holder broke just now. Dang it. The booster I had done first. This has been a while. This is going to be a nightmare to get off. I always use wood tools because that does not damage the aluminum. Let's see if this works. I'm so excited right now. My heart's racing. Oh my god, this is wicked. Oh, check it out. Yes. We're gonna remove this black paint in here, but we need it in there, so we were able to remove it. Oh, this is wicked. So now that that's done, I'm gonna vacuum this up, and we're gonna do the booster. So now we're going to take the booster, get it in the right orientation. Oh, this is, the paint is removed in here. You can use any kind of wood tool, Shisker Bob skewer, like that, to try and mimic. Of course I have my reference off screen here. But to copy paint chips. Now you can tell that these paint chips were man-made there's a lot of, like all these were man-made, there's a lot of consistency with the paint chips on the Yuma. They definitely didn't like throw it in a box full of sharp tools and bang it around. These were made intentionally. Steel wool in there. Dull it. You can even see that there's black paint on the lip inside there, so you want to keep that. There we go. I'm going to keep that like that for now. So we're going to start taking the stencils off. And this really isn't the correct vinyl to use to make stencils. This is just stuff my brother had laying around and I got from him. So this vinyl sticks really good. This is actually stuff for automotive, like window stickers. So my advice would be is to try and take these stickers off when the paint is still fairly wet, because I've had some hard times removing them. This has been, I think, 2 days of it being cured, or 1 day. So I'm going to start with the neck here. I have a piece of blue tape there that I put my chips on and reuse. Those 2 chips are important on the stencil kit. The gold I'm going to leave for last because that's the scariest one. Use wood tools to get to go so you don't mark up the actual aluminum. This one here I have a really good picture of. So this is like 100% legit, this stencil. There's one part where there's like a little finger, and that is 100% on. It's funny, this sticker is ripping apart this time. Last time it was giving me hard. This is where the finger is, right there. That's wicked. It also helps to take the stencil and put it on your t-shirt before you apply it. It picks up enough lint so it makes the edges, the stencil gives it a little texture, but it also makes it a little bit weaker of an attachment, so it's easier to come off. Bottom part of the neck is done. Let's go into the gold. So now the gold, I've seen a lot of people complaining that it flakes, and it does flake, but when I had mine and I had to strip it, this was a pain in the ass to come off. It was cured for a couple days, so you may want to wait a couple days before you start removing the chips on the gold. These circles here are really important because I have a wicked clear shot of these 3 circles. So this part is the most important. We want this to come off without damaging the rest. Came out in one piece. Perfect. There's an overspray here. I don't know if I'm going to leave that or touch it up. I think I kind of like the overspray on it. Alright, so we're just going to do some paint chipping. It's fairly easy for reference. There's a big chunk missing on this side here. The top ring section here has a lot of damage to it, all the way around it. A real good picture of it. Right here, we got these dimples here. We got this little dragon mark here. That's actually this one that's just like this on the V2. And then some damage all the way down here. little bits of dings and dents. These are copied right off of the picture. Now the opposite side, and there's some damage here on it, and surprisingly the gold is really beat. The lip is completely worn off. You can see the flaking there. Same thing with the bottom lip. If you remember, that was all solid gold. We roughed it up. And to make these chips and everything, I just used my clamp card. I have my putty knife out in the shed. If I was out there, I would use the putty knife, but that's pretty much it for the damage on the ring section. The top ring has the most damage, and you can see that really, really good, and the gold on the wind vane as well. That pretty much covers the paint chips. So now we're going to get onto the control box. So the control box has remnants of glue in it, and it's like a yellowy kind of glue, like a yellow tint to it. So I'm going to use, I've tried super glues and I can't get it to look right. So I was doing some Formica countertops the other day, and this is the glue we use for the Formica countertops. This glue dries kind of yellowy. You can see it in the cup. So that's what I'm going to use for the Yuma box. This stuff is really hazardous to breathe in, so you should be wearing a mask. Stuff's no joke. I'm also going to paint this on and then pull the stencil off as fast as I can, because I think if I don't, the stencil is going to be stuck to the control box. I'm doing this little pattern to give it some texture. Okay, I left a little tab here to try and easily grab it and remove it. All right. It worked. It worked. Love it when a plan comes together. All right, gang, we don't have much left to finish. Got the control box here with the glue remnants on it. I'm going to use some Tamiya weathering product, get in here on certain areas just to give it some more texture, because on the real prop she's dirty in here, and it also brings the glue to life. Seems like it's only dirty on this side. Dirty it up with some soot. Don't mind my voice. Just come back from the doctor. I'm corona free. Okay, so I got some soot on there. I'm gonna put some more over here though. That's done. Now, big surprise. The V2 has dirt in the rings, and so does the Yuma. The dirt inside the Yuma, though, is different. It's a much tanner looking dirt. You can see it clear as day. I mean, clearer than what we can see in the V2 picture. So I'm using this Tamiya product here, this number 7079. You've seen me use this before, and I'm going to do a mix between the two of these here. Let's get some highs and some lows. So we're going to start doing that now, and it's every ring section has this way down inside. So we're going to try and use this applicator to get inside there. I don't know if it's going to work though, because this applicator is kind of big. So we'll try this, and if this doesn't work, we'll do some shish kebab skewers. See if that works. Yeah, see, these grooves are different than the V2 grooves. So what I decided to do is take the applicator off, put the shish kebab skewer inside there, get the tip really dirty, and then just rub that down there. That way I can get right in the groove, and then we'll just remove it with Q-tips. We'll dirty each one up like this, and then remove it with the Q-tips. This is the ring section full of the weathering product. Now we're just going to take a cap of water and a Q-tip, and we're going to remove the weathering. Like that, leaving it in the groove. I'll leave it in the groove. That's what we want to see. Going down in the just that V section of the rings. We just want in the V section of the rings. Clean this up and be back. It's raining today, so I actually have the day off. Okay, so we're back in the shed. We're going to install the tri-ring today. I wasn't going to film this because we covered it in the Hero video with Starkiller doing it, but if you guys didn't see the Hero video, I figured I'll just throw this in there anyway, make it short and sweet. Dan isn't happy with the tri-rings that he's got, and he sourced some new ones, and it's only a matter of time before he sends those out, but I like this one. It's in there, a tight fit, and we have some pictures showing how tight of a fit it is because the tri-ring defies gravity at some times. So I'm sticking with this tri-ring. So we're going to use our Dremel with a cutoff and our drum to clean up the edges and then install it. So make sure you go get your eye protection, and let's get this in the vise and start the process. And like the previous video, we want to make sure it's less than 1/4 of an inch. Boom, just shy of 1/4. Let's fire up the Dremel. Eyes are on. Oh, and it's not plugged in. Son of a gun. Okay. Now, we're going to take the drum and we're going to sand the edges to make it, I believe we call this pencil pointing. So I got my drum here. Spread them a bit. Be very careful not to go too far because you may actually start cracking the plating on it. And then, ooh, this is going to be snug. I'm going to have to deburr the inside of this, the cube, like the other ones. Just taking my rat's tail file. You can actually feel the burrs. Dave is doing a run of tri-rings on the RPF. So if you're looking for an accurate tri-ring, he's doing them. He's also doing them in steel. I believe it's stainless and steel he's doing. So we bent those flat a little bit. And now I'm going to try pinch this together at the same time. This is by far probably the hardest part of the kit. Okay. That's looking good right there. And if you look, it defies gravity like the real prop, but with some force you can get it into the positions that we've seen it in. But it also defies gravity too. Very happy with that, and it doesn't move side. Well, it moves barely little, but I know Dan's not happy with it. But I love this. I think it's perfect. Takes a little takes a little while to get there, but you can get it. Just take your time. Alright, so now that we got the tri-ring installed, we're going to go back into the basement, put this together, and finish it up. It's pretty much done. I got one more little secret to share about the Yuma. So, Seth, get ready for this. Alright gang, back in the basement. Final assembly. This has been a fun project. I first have to apologize again for how long it took to get this out there. There was a few hiccups throughout the way, redesigning my stencils, the mishap with painting, but I've done the best I can to edit this all together to make it work. So last we left off, it was time to throw it all together. So this is, I'm gonna FX this, so I'm gonna throw the control box on here just for cosmetic purposes. But I have a picture of the right orientation of the screws, so I'll throw that up now. So that's the location that the screws should be in. I'm not going to throw the screws in here now because this is just going to come back apart and start installing my electronics. But there is, and of course if this was final assembly, I would clean those threads and grease them with white lithium grease. But for right now I have the lever stuck in there with some gaffer's tape. But there's one more thing, one more surprise I want to talk about the Yuma. So with the Disney Plus release in the 4K, I realized that by the time Mark Hamill gets to the sail barge shots, and I don't know this for a fact, but judging by the outcome, I imagine so, the Yuma starts on the skiffs, and by the time he shoots the scenes on the actual sail barge, bouncing laser beams back, if you look at the control box, it's all gaffers taped up. I got that picture that I'll throw in now. And there was large debate with him holding it when he gets his hand shot, that there was black here, and people thought maybe it was the black buttons. I now believe that what we're seeing is just gaffer's tape. I don't know if it's there to hold the hand in place, there to hold wires in it, or just left over from when they wrapped up the control box. I guess Mark Hamill was complaining by the time he got to the sail barge that even this box with the smooth rails and smooth lever was still uncomfortable to wield around. And to think about it, he doesn't hit anybody with this. He's just waving around a pole on it. So, I don't know. Maybe he's got some sissy hands, I don't know. I've also got a couple questions about Halox. What do we use to seal it? We don't seal the Yuma. The pictures we have, there is no clear coat on here. She is shiny and brand new and freshly machined. Really shiny in this one picture, so this is what we want. We don't want to dull it down with clear. Leave it the way it is, raw aluminum. But, I gotta thank everybody that was involved in helping me do this. Couldn't have done it without you. Gotta do a big shout out to Anakin Starkiller for once again delivering such a fantastic product. You will see me work on this again once I start doing electronics. I'm building a static blade for it. That pretty much sums it up. I can't really think of anything else besides that big shocker for Seth with the gaffer's tape on the control box. So I know how much Seth loves gaffer's tape on lightsabers. But, yep, this wraps it up. Again, thank you so much for all your support, and thank you so much for your patience. I really appreciate it. I tried my best to get this out there. This video is rather long. It should have been 2 videos, but I spliced it all into one. So, I really appreciate you guys' support. Hope this helps everyone. This is Halox, out.